Donald Trump confirmed yesterday's insider information in his speech today in Davos. He spoke about a new wonder weapon of the United States of America, which American special forces used during the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Let me remind you, a Maduro security guard mentioned this superweapon. And this explained why the Venezuelan army practically did not react to the American operation. Trump stated that during the operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on January 3, the American military used a secret development, a sonic weapon that no one else in the world has. This weapon affected the soldiers who were practically paralyzed, but it also paralyzed the air defense systems that Russia and China had supplied to Venezuela. I should note that there was already information earlier that the Russians sabotaged the maintenance of the air defense systems supplied to Maduro right before the American attack, which is why the S-300 and Buk systems simply weren't brought to combat readiness. But this is an interesting admission by Trump, which is only partially confirmed by various insider reports, but nothing more. Let's examine this situation and Trump's statement together. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and write any comment under this episode. This is very helpful for promoting content on YouTube, and I appreciate it. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, Donald Trump, speaking at Davos at the World Economic Forum, stated that during the operation to capture the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, on January 3rd, the American military used a secret development. A sonic weapon that no one else has. We have weapons that no one else knows about, and I would say it's probably better not to talk about it, but we have amazing weapons. It was an amazing attack. That was Trump's response to a journalist's question about the possible use of hypersonic weapons in capturing Maduro. In addition, Donald Trump said in Davos that this secret weapon supposedly helped neutralize Venezuela's air defense systems during the raid by American special forces in the country's capital to capture Maduro. The United States and the world are facing much greater risks than ever before because of missiles, nuclear weapons, and means of waging war that even I can't tell you about. Then, as often happens with Trump, he ended up telling, in fragmented phrases, what happened 2 weeks ago in Caracas. And here is his quote. "The Venezuelans weren't able to fire a single shot at us. They said, 'What happened?' Everyone was confused. They said, 'We had them in our sights. We pulled the trigger and nothing happened.' Not a single anti-aircraft missile took off. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed right next to the people who said this. They said, 'What the hell is going on?' Yeah." How did he learn what the Venezuelans said? Trump, of course, didn't explain, but he did note that those offensive systems were made by Russia and China. So Russia and China will have to go back to the drawing board. I guess their weapons didn't work. And on that note, the New York Times has already reported that the Venezuelan army was not prepared to repel an air attack because the air defense systems provided by Russia had not even been activated. As informed American officials told the newspaper, the Russian strategic and tactical S-300 and Buk M2 systems, which were supposed to protect Venezuelan airspace during the United States operation on January 3rd, were not even connected to the radars. That's why they couldn't work at all. Here's what the New York Times wrote on January 12th, quote, "Venezuela purchased air defense systems from Russia in 2009. In particular, the country received Buk M2 and S-300 surface-to-air missile systems. However, according to sources from the New York Times, Venezuela was unable to establish the operation and maintenance of these systems. There was also a lack of trained specialists who could maintain the weaponry. Some components of the systems had not even been put into operation at the time of the operation. Years of corruption, poor logistics, and sanctions have certainly worsened the combat readiness of Venezuela's air defense systems, and Russia's own military needs in Ukraine have simply limited its ability to support the operation of these systems in Venezuela. On the other hand, it's worth recalling how, on January 5, United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, as if he knew something, sarcastically stated that during the United States operation in Venezuela, Russian air defense systems did not perform very well. Quote, 3 nights ago, in downtown Caracas, Venezuela, nearly 200 of America's best quietly entered the city center. It seems those same Russian air defense systems didn't work very well, didn't they? The result? Analysis of photos, videos, and satellite images showing the aftermath of the American strikes on Venezuela on the night of January 3rd revealed that some components of the air defense systems were simply in storage and not operational at the time of the strike. This confirms the theory that the Russian systems existed only on paper, so maybe they wanted to use them, but physically couldn't. But there's another point. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt shared on X a January 10 interview with a man identifying as Nicolas Maduro's security detail. And according to him, the American Special Forces who captured the Venezuelan leader used an unusual weapon that caused something like a powerful sound wave. Here is his quote. "At some point, the Americans launched something, I don't know how to describe it, it was like a very powerful sound wave. Suddenly I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. All of us started bleeding from our noses. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after they used this sonic weapon. Or whatever it was, I had never seen anything like it before." In addition, an unnamed Venezuelan soldier told the New York Post that during Maduro's capture, the Americans used an unknown weapon against the security forces, something they had never encountered before. And this became yet another confirmation of the theory that the United States did in fact use some kind of weapon. Although Trump himself may of course be exaggerating his influence on air defense systems, there is already enough evidence that something was indeed used. Nevertheless, after the disgrace of the Russian air defense systems in Venezuela, the Kremlin started to take action. And here we are. On Wednesday, the press secretary of the President of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Peskov, stated that the responsible Russian agencies are collecting and analyzing information about such weapons, and they will provide clarification regarding Trump's statement. And finally, I'll quote Peskov. "As you know, we have the relevant agencies whose tasks include gathering information on this matter and analyzing it. They are doing their job. In this case, we will probably have to hear an explanation about what exactly the President of the United States means." I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or paid subscription using the links and details in the description of this video, as well as the QR code on your screens. I would appreciate any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.